And I don't like his release, so stop talking about it.
I didn't say it once, but since you brought it up, I'm going to average heaps more than you. Yeah, at that price? Who? At that price, who? At that price. No. At that price. At that price.
No one.
No one. Good. Matty for the win.
Too late.
Oh!
Too high.
Too high. They keep on asking me if Tom McConey's going to be the ruckman. It's not.
Not yet. Not yet anyway.
Not even. He's not the best ruckman in
I
cup.
want to see kidneys and chesters. I want to see these.
You're not going to be seeing much of chest, aren't you?
Oh, Francis. I just got concussed. I just got concussed.
Doesn't care.
Tom Mitchell doesn't tug on the ball. Tom Mitchell kicks the winning goal and he got 140. Vice captain right now.
Welcome back to SuperCoach Masters. I'm Geordie, and today we're doing a way too early midfield ranking. The end of 2024. Who's going to be the best midfielders? The top 18. This is going to be really hard to do. I'm looking forward to the controversy it's going to bring because there are about 20 midfielders over 600k. So that making a top 18 of the entire midfield is going to be quite, it's going to go against a lot of people's favourite primo from their favourite team, and they're going to say, everyone's going to be upset. Done the defenders last night. If you haven't seen that, there should be a link somewhere floating by or at the end of the video. Have a check it out of those defenders that I've rated and tell me what you think. Everyone was pretty nice there. They're pretty much, I think most people agree. Some people thought maybe Ridley could be a little bit higher, or Wanganeen-Malira or something like that. But this one, I know you're going to be upset. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit the like button just to get this video going and subscribe. We again going to have a competition for subscribers and give them a nice SuperCoach beautiful Diamante ring from the bragging rights in the Masters group. And yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Spotify for podcasts on the go. And we'll get into it. So, top 18 midfielders. This first one's already controversial, and I'm already going to cop it. But the first one I have, Tom Liberatore. Obviously had a really good year last year, and I don't think he's going to be doing that again. I don't think the injury to Bailey Smith is going to affect too much with Libba in a positive sense. They did recruit Harms as an inside mid, and I think that maybe Harms gets a little bit of that contested ball in there as well. Libba's CBAs last year was 78%, which is massive. He's never had a year higher than that. CBA dominance, Liberatore. Just to put in perspective, 2022, he had about 59% CBAs. So this was uncharted territory for him. He could very well get similar amounts, but you know, the data on previous season is that he usually doesn't get that kind of CBAs. I always ask myself when looking at these premiums, are they more likely to drop their average, maintain their average, or increase it? I think the room for Libba to increase his average is very limited. There is some room for him to stay, but I do think he drops his average. And look, he got his highest average of his career last year, 2023, and this was his highest score by far. His next highest score was in 2014, so that was 10 years later when he got his second highest score, and that was about 6 points less. So well and truly uncharted territory for Libba. Never had this much CBAs, never averaged this much ever. His next highest average was 10 years ago. He's 31 years old right now. I really don't like him. I think he's coming down. I think it's a bad pick. Okay? If you're a doggy supporter, you don't like it, bad luck. Bad luck. He's going to drop. So now that we've pissed off the doggy supporters, let's piss off someone else. Let's piss off the Lions supporters, because I have Lachie Neale at 17th. All right, I'm just going to let that sit in. You're probably thinking this guy's crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. True, I don't, but you think that 17th is out of the realm for Lachie Neale. He finished 15th last season, so he finished as the 15th highest average midfielder last year. So having him 17th, it's not that far off from where he actually scored. So it's, number one, not out of the realm of possibility. Two, he's 30 years old. So Lachie is obviously, since that injury-affected year he's been pretty durable, bar that 2021. He's been a really durable player, but I do see his average slowly going down a bit more. I watched a lot of the Lions games, if not all of them last year, and I just feel he wasn't like the over-accumulator that we're used to. So there are some warning signs for Lachie Neale for me. The last 5 games of the home and away season. So I usually look at the most recent games they played, either the finals, last 5 games of the home away season, to kind of get a more accurate indication of their role and their scoring. As you know, the first 5 games of the year is going to be, that's almost a year apart. So he averaged 99.8 in those last 5 games. And in the final series, he averaged 86 in, so I think, I know in the finals, Lachie Neale is probably trying harder as anyone. 86 average, and then 99 in the home and away season, last 5 games. That's, to me, a little bit too many warning bells to pick him straight up. Maybe after his bye will be a nice picker, but I think I have him around this mark. If you don't agree, let me know. So next one, I have Connor Rosie. He only went below 90 twice last year. I'm not a huge fan of his capability to be able to play forward so well, because I just want him in the midfield. But even that said, he was the highest CBA getter at Port Adelaide in 2023 with 69%. He's now the captain of Port. He's only 23 years old. And again, going back to the Woolly, more likely decrease his average, increase it, or even, maintain it. I think Rosie, he would have to have a pretty severe change in his position for his scoring to go down, or his scoring to even maintain. I think it's going to be going up. So that's the reason I like Rosie at 16th. Now, next one, these last 6 guys can all be bunched around. They're all pretty, I predict a pretty similar average. But this next one, Anderson, Noah Anderson, I really like Anderson. I don't think he's going to be very chosen, because obviously you got Touk Miller at a discounted price, and no one's going to pick the more expensive, probably less renowned Gold Coast midfielder, especially when Rail's up there as well, at the price he's at. So he's going to be a massive pod. He's only played 4 seasons, and every season he's increased his average. So he went from a 76.2 to an 83.5 to a 95.3, and then last year was 104.9. He had 71% of the CBAs. I wouldn't be expecting too much more of that. That was a pretty substantial, knowing that Anderson can sometimes play wing, but 71% is pretty good, and he's only 22 years old. I really don't see how he goes from increasing his average maybe about 10 to 13 points a year to maintaining it or losing it. It's got to stay the same or increase. So for that reason, I have Anderson next. Let me get some water. It's talking so much. Oh, so much better when Maddie's here and just talking shit. All right. Sam Walsh is the next one. Now, it's really hard to get a gauge on Sam Walsh for numerous reasons. So, number one, he is an injury risk. He wasn't initially in his career, but I think over the last 2 or so years, he's picked up a bit of a niggle, and he hasn't really been able to become completely fit. So, biggest concern, now if this was any other player, he'll be much lower, but 55% CBAs last year is a horrible role. If this player, if Sam Walsh wasn't as talented as he is, he'd be nowhere near it. But because he is Sam Walsh, he can still do some pretty good scoring with only 55% of the CBAs. So he's only 23 years old, and unlike the rest, he's already proven that he's averaged 117 over 22 games, which is a really big sample size in 2021. So we know Sam Walsh has the opportunity, if he gets the opportunity, he can average a really, really big number, much more than he's priced at this year. His CBA is 55%. Surely they don't really go down too much. If anything, they are maintained or stay the same. Voss has him in this really disgusting role. Should just be playing pure mid, and he'll be straight up first chosen. But considering that he probably won't get the lion's share of CBAs that these other midfielders will get, I think this is a pretty fair position to be putting Sam Walsh in. That 117 he got, just to put it in a bit of perspective, 117 is more than what Merritt and Dacos averaged last year. So these are huge numbers he can possibly get over 22 games. So Look, it's one that you have to kind of look at the role. I don't think he's going to get the exact role he thrives in, but in the role that he currently has, I still think he can do a little bit better, and that's why I have him in this position. Next one is Errol Goulden, 21 years old. There's no durability issues with him at all. He's pretty much played every game he's been fit to play. I really like him as a safe pick. This is a big jump though, so he did increase his scoring from 81 points in 2022 and to last year's 111, which is about a 30-point jump. That's huge. So if he does have more to give, I don't see him going down too much. I mean, with the wing role that he plays, and he's probably the best winger in the competition, he still can score pretty well. But I do think if Errol was in the midfield more, he'll be scoring a lot more than he is scoring now. He'll be in those 120s as a midfielder. But as a winger, getting 111 is huge. I don't know how much more he can really top that without the scales balancing a little bit more and getting more midfield time, which he pretty much could get because Mills is out. They did bring in Taylor Adams, and there's Rowbottoms and Parkers and all these guys that rotate through. But I would love to see Goulden as a pure midfield only, and he'll be a walk-in starter in any SuperCoach side. On that wing role though, I do have it a bit skewed. So 36% CBAs he got last year, which is worse than Walsh. He's literally just a winger, and I don't like paying over 600k for a winger. As you can see, or as you saw last year, he scored 256s in a row. Then he also scored quite poorly. He can score very big scores and very low scores. So the reason why I wouldn't get Errol was because that wing role is so variable in his scoring. You could probably get him for cheaper when he puts a couple of shit games together. But when he gets those big ones, obviously, that's where it balances out his average. So got Goulden there. And it was worth noting that his last 6 games, he did get over 50% in the CBA. So that could be a sign of things to come for Goulden, but I do have him there. Now, next one is Andy Brayshaw. I like Brayshaw. He's currently in my team due to the bye, not due to what I think his potential is. I think just having an extra premium for another week over other premiums is going to be a pretty big advantage. Don't like him more than some of these other guys, but I do think he started off the season with an injury, much like Sarong did. Even in his poor games where he scored pretty poorly, he was still accumulating good amounts of football, which is kind of what you want to see. You can fix up disposals any day. So, unless you're Taylor Adams. So a big reason why Brayshaw is here is because he did finish 2023 with 122 5-round average. So that 122 over 5 rounds, the only midfielders that were better than him was Bont, LDU, and Butters. So he was ranked 4th at the season's end for the top 5 game average. Hope that makes sense. He's only 24 as well. So I do think the midfielders peak around that 25 to 28. And that's usually when they get their absolute best scoring, according to the data I've looked at. So I do think Brayshaw definitely has room to improve, especially with that start of the season he had. So I do think Brayshaw could be a good pick. Bring me to the next one. Straight up, it's just going to be Sarong. It's really hard to split these guys, but I do think Sarong gets the nod over Brayshaw. He's only 22, he's much younger, 2 years younger than Brayshaw. The ankle injury he had was well documented and how frustrating it was. He seems to have a really big drive to be one of the best players in the competition, and I think the SuperCoach scoring changed a bit last year. They didn't tell us, but I think they started favouring more the in and unders and long kicks and disposal efficiency than it usually does. I know it's a lot different to Fantasy and Dream Team, but I think they really tightened up last year without really mentioning it, and I think Sarong is going to really benefit from that kind of scoring change. So his 4-year average was an 81. He increased that to an 82.8 when he was doing some tagging. 90.6 and last year 111.2. He did miss last year a game due to the ankle injury. So it was bothering him somewhat enough to him just to miss a game. It was bothering him throughout the year. So I do think that if he gets an injury-free run, he's a really good pick, especially because of that bye. Okay, Now, these guys, this one might ruffle a little bit of feathers, maybe not. So, Rory Laird, okay, 30 years old. I predicted a bit of a drop in his average last year, which happened. I think the same thing with McRae. I predicted a bit of a drop in his average as well with Lachie Neale. I think that drop continues. Laird's a star. I think the aging, the 30 years old, doesn't bother him as much as it would some other midfielders because he's short, he's in and under. I don't think he needs too much speed to get his kind of scoring and points. I do still have him above all these other superstars, so, you know, it's not like I'm saying he's going to fall off the radar completely, but he did drop his average by 11 points, okay? So you need to look at why he dropped his average by 11 points. He wasn't played out of position at all. He wasn't injured or didn't have any injury. It was nothing documented about an injury, so he just dropped 11 points. So for that reason, I think he's just on a bit of a decline. I think maybe he maintains or drops a little bit. So that being said, still have him above all these other guys, but I still think that his average will suffer for it. Especially the guys that I have above him, I think are really set for a good year. So, and one of them is Touk Miller. Now, this is going to be hugely role dependent. Right now, obviously, this video has been done in January. We've got no preseason data. We know that Hardwick plays his best players in the midfield. Touk Miller was a tagger when he came back from that injury, and he was played out of his normal role. So if he's back in the midfield, getting his CBAs, not tagging anymore, he came back from a big injury, and his last two previous averages before 2023 was 114 and 124. That's massive. I really think that Touk Miller has the most upside. I don't see him dropping average, that's for sure. Maintaining it even seems like a bit of a stretch. He will increase his average, Touk Miller, from what he got last year. It's just a matter of how much. He has that injury affected number as well, bringing down his average. I also think Hardwick there just helps his game. Absolutely, Rao, Anderson, and Touk in the midfield. I think he can get back up to, if he's back to his normal role, back to 115 to 120. He could be an absolute enormous pick, but I'm not sure at this stage what his role is. So I got him a little bit more modestly placed than if I knew he was completely mid. He could easily push up into my top six. Now, my top six are way higher than these other guys, but the top six, I think any one of the top six I have can finish number one. Any one of the top six can finish number one. They're so close, I have in my mind. But enough about that. Let's get into the next one. Okay, so Zach Merritt, I think he's fairly placed. I don't think... Look, so Zach Merritt, his last 8 seasons, okay, he's averaged everywhere between 100 and 116. So his lowest is 100 and his highest is 116. You know what you're going to get with Merritt. His high score, the 116, did come last year. So I think we are buying stocks at a bit high here. I think if he's good between 100 and 116, over the last 8 seasons, obviously there's room for improvement and he's going to be on the upper end of that. I think his average somewhere lies between 110 to 118, something like that. A bit wary that his high score was last year, and he did score big SuperCoach points when the games were up for grabs. So Essendon had a lot of close games. Merritt done a huge tackle or set up a big goal, and he got 40 or 50 points in like 5 minutes. Generally speaking, it's a bit of luck where the ball is and when there's 2 minutes to go in the game, and sometimes they won't be around it. Merritt did get a lot of his points like that. I'm not saying he didn't deserve them, but I'm just saying, I mean, if it was a blowout or if it was just a 4-goal margin, there would have been a little bit less points given to Merritt, and he was dominant in all those games. So, not saying it's a reason not to pick him, not saying he's completely overpriced, but I'm saying it's just something to think about. He's as safe as 110, I think you can get. If you want to get a Merritt, let's get a safe pick because you don't trust any other premiums. He's a great pick. I do think if Goldstein plays more than Draper in the midfield, that Merritt will benefit from that. I think Goldstein is a really good tap ruckman. I think Draper is not yet, if he ever will be. I think if they play Goldstein, no Draper, round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think Merritt only benefits from that. He's 28 years old. I don't hate the age. I don't mind it at all. I don't think he's going to increase massively or decrease massively because of his age. So I think he's a safe pick. And I think that's about where I think most people should have Merritt in their predictions. Okay, so I should hopefully get no arguments about that one. But I know I'm going to get arguments about the top 6. So before then, I think Dawson. Now, some people have Dawson a lot higher. I don't think people have him much lower. I got him around here, the top 7. The other 6 guys I just believe are going to have an absolute year. But Dawson's the kind of person that it doesn't really matter if he's played out of position, because in the defence he scores well. In the midfield he scores well. Talked about SuperCoach being a bit more friendlier to the long kicks. He does the most of them. They look for him when the game's up for grabs, when he needs to do the kickouts, midfield role. I really like Dawson as a pick. I think he does average more than Laird this year, that's for sure. I think 26 years old. I think he's perfect age, perfect position, perfect role. There's no reason not to pick Dawson. His bye's not that bad. I think he only has the 1 bye as well, which is the last one. The only thing about him is there's not much data on Dawson, because he's only been in midfield for like a midfielder for 1 or 2 years or something like that. So there's not much to look at in terms of his CBAs to his progress in the midfield, but I think he's a good player. I think he's a good pick. I think the role is good. And I think he'll be up there in the top midfielders this year. Okay, so now let's get into these top 6, because I think these top 6 are going to be very hotly contested. Okay, so number 6, I have Petrarca. I have no real reason to think Petrarca can't be number 1 in the comp this year at all. But I just think the guys ahead of him are going to do better. So let's get into why. I think Oliver's off-season antics, I think if he's not playing again Oliver, I think Petrarca goes ballistic and could easily be top 2 again. He just turned 28, I think 2 days ago or something like that. There's no reason he can't replicate last year's form unless Clary returns to a full-time midfield. I really did think Clary made Petrarca score as well as he did. That being said, he did not go below 95 all of last year, Petrarca. So if you have him and you select him, he did not go below 95 the whole year. That is amazing. I think if we knew that he'll do that again, he'll be picked as well. But obviously with Melbourne and their bye, he's going to be missing 2 games for the SuperCoach year. But this is just based on averages. It's not based on where to pick them in this. But I still think, because I got him at this position because I think Oliver will be back. And I think that Petrarca scoring will maybe reduce a little bit. Average 119 this year, which is huge. And yeah, I just can't bring myself to put him above any of these other guys. So Zach Butters is next. Now, some people have Zach Butters in the top 2. I think Zach Butters is a great pick this year. He finished 2023 with the highest average of any midfielder with 139. So the last 5 games he averaged 139.4, and he was played a lot forward in the first month of football. So that could have affected his average a little bit. I think they started playing him more in the midfield as the year went on. You think Wines and Boakest getting minimal CBAs these days. Now the vice captain, he's 23 years old. I think that Butters is primed for a really big year. There was a concern about his durability, but I think last year was his first full season. So he's played 5 seasons and last year was his first full season. That's why I didn't pick him last year, because I thought he was due for an injury, but he did turn the tide. He played every game last year, and if he can do it again, I think he can really increase his average, and I think he's so dangerous with the football. So I think Butters can be really good. Got him at 5, I think. So he's in my team at the moment. Really friendly buy, and I think everyone should pick him up. I think it's a really good pick, And now this is probably where I'm going to cop a bit more flack because I got Oliver at number 4. I'll tell you why. Obviously, it's well documented. His off-field stuff that's happening, his medical issues. Maybe you think he's on drugs or whatever. Or when he returns from his 10-week injury or whatever it was, 11-week injury, he returned. Some people say he wasn't the same, which is kind of true, but he did, the 3 games that he did play when he returned from the injury, he did average 107. Okay, and you're thinking, that's not great. It's not. But in the final series, he averaged 139. Now, he played 2 games, 139 points he's averaged, where it does not count towards his price for SuperCoach 2024. So Oliver played the last 2 games of the season, averaged 139. And those numbers are not included in his average. So it's fair to say with that injury, coming back from an injury, and you got 2 massive games at 139 average, that's not included in his score. I think, you know, if Clary had no off-field issues, he'd be number 1. He'd be ahead of absolutely everyone. He'll be close to 700k if they put it in there. So I don't think it's a hamstring injury or anything stupid like that. Or I think that it's something else. But if he can get over that, he's a very durable player. Like, these are his recent games that he's played over the season. So in 2022, played 21 games. And then in 2021, he played 22 games. The COVID year, he played all games. 2019, he played 22, and another 22 in 18, and another 22 in 2017. So he hardly misses a game through injury for everything. So I think he will return this year. And if he is playing round 1, I think he has a huge potential. I think if he wasn't, he would be number 1 because he's just such a good player. And look, I don't know what else to say. He's great. If he's fit and he's over his drugs or his cocaine, whatever he's doing, he's a star. And I think he will be one of the highest averages in the competition. Even last year, he averaged just as much as Petrarca, if not more. So something to think about. Even on his worst year, he's still averaging in the 120s. So if he's fit and you're considering a Melbourne play despite that disgusting bye, consider Clary if you're brave. Last 4 years, he's averaged 120 plus. So we know what a star he is. It's just if he can get fit. So that's why I got Clary at 4. Now, this next one, controversial, maybe not, is Tom Green. Now, I believe Tom Green is like Clary, but without the drug issues. So I think he plays very similar like him. He's 23 years old in January this year, and he's pumped his average up every year, every season. So he's gone from a 72 to a 79 to an 89.2 to 111.2. So I think he's going to increase, I reckon, close to 120. I really like the way he goes about it. He plays a very friendly SuperCoach, in and under, get the ball, extract it, punch it out. And I think he's primed for a really big year. That being said, he's not in my team at the moment. I think he'll be a really good upgrade target because he has the first buy. So he's got 2 buys, but the second buy he has is the first one of the lot where there's a lot of the other teams in there. So after that first buy passes, you can pick him up and he'll play the rest of the buy rounds for you. So I don't have him in your team, but I do think he can average one of the best scores. He could easily be top 2, I think. Okay, so I think he can go 120, and I don't think his price will be too heavily affected by it unless he goes absolutely bananas. But I think even picking him up, 610, 614k or something, whatever he is now, 650 after the buy, I mean, I'll do that. It just works better for my structure. If it doesn't work better for yours and you love him and you think he's going to go 125, 120, best player in the comp, grab him. I really do like the pick, and I hope there are some people that agree with that. I think he still does need a year or 2 before he gets to his absolute peak, but I still think that what he can score this year is going to be one of the competition's best. Now, this one, I don't think I'll get many people that agree. It's LDU. Maybe North fans will agree with me here, but LDU, at the end of last year, had a 5-game average of 124, which was the 3rd highest midfielder. So you've already seen the end sample size. When he's fit, when he's up and going, 124, he's already in the top 3 midfielders with only, I think, Butters and Bont ahead of him. He averaged 113 with 2 injury-affected games. So he went off against Port when he already had 122 in the last 3rd quarter or the last quarter, and he didn't score no more. That could have easily been 150 the way he was going. And obviously against that Gold Coast game. So he does have 2 injury-affected scores in his average. So he would be a lot more if it wasn't for that. He also can really challenge for a top 2 position. He did carry that injury throughout the year. So he only had 2 injury-affected scores, but he had 3 different injuries because after he played a full game, then he just missed round 3. So he did miss a fair bit of games last year, and I think that is the biggest blight on LDU. He does miss a lot of football. I don't think he's going to play a full season again. There's no indication that he will play a full season, but I think even that being said, he can still have one of the biggest averages in SuperCoach this year. Am I going to pick him? Probably not. I would love to be able to pick him because it's best 18. Because if it's best 18 most weeks when the buys are around, then if he gets injured and gets a 30, it's not going to really matter. I'm going to have someone covering that. But I think it'll be really beneficial if he goes on one of those absolute banana runs and he gets 130, 140. He's really going to help your best 18 overall. It's an incredibly risky pick. I think he can average huge. I would love to know what you guys think about that one. I do have LDU pretty high. I think any of the top 6, though, can be in any order. All right, now the last one, there's probably no prizes for this one, but it's the Bont. Okay, so, and the climate, and the potty with something anticlimactic. It's just, Bont's going to be a great pick. I don't really think he's going to increase his average. I think it maintains, maybe drops a little bit. But there's no real reason why it will drop substantially. I think Bont played the first kind of season that we knew that he had in him all along. He is 28. I don't think he's going to drop because he's older. That usually happens around 30, 31, and that's when the average starts to come down. I wouldn't be surprised if it did come down a few points, nothing too dramatic. I don't think there's going to be a positional change. I don't think there's going to be a decline because of age. I don't think an increase. I don't think Harms is going to take too much minutes off him. So there's no reason why he doesn't get an 120 plus average. For those of you that didn't have him, he did only go under 100 one time last year, and that's when I made him captain against the Lions. Even though I think he played really good that game. He had 12 scores over 120. So you kind of have to be like, am I brave enough not to pick Bont? But I do think Bont and these other 5 midfielders in my top 6 can all average, any of them can be first. Even Dawson. But that's my top 18 midfielders. Obviously, it's really hard to predict a number. One missed point or a behind or a goal could change the whole average on anything. So I'd love to know what you guys think, or I'd love to know if I missed anyone. I already know that there's a couple in there I didn't put in. A lot of people with Raul in their team and all that stupid shit. Not here, I'm not entertaining that. You know what, now I think about it, maybe Raul can break into it, but this is such a hard list to break into. I mean, Liberatore's the 18th, Neil's the 17th. It's really hard to try and fit all these people in the top 18. But that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope that you found some stats or some kind of information that you hadn't heard of before and helps you make your decision for your SuperCoach team. Remember, please do subscribe, like, and leave a comment on what you think is what changes you would make. If you haven't watched the Defender video, jump on. Still got the rucks and forwards to come, so stay tuned for that. And find me on Twitter, Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, legends. Catch ya.